Hey everybody, this is Perch. Um, Going into a comic shop. I still like going into a comic shop. Particularly if the shop isn't mine. There's nothing like going into your own store. Don't get me wrong. That's a great experience, but it's fun. It's enjoyable to go in and see, what other people are doing. And half the time, by the way, what other people are doing is not terribly interesting. It's kind of the same old stuff. But it's still really great. By the way, I'm reminded of a shop that opened up in Washington, and I did a review of it. It was a brand new shop. The guy had just opened it up, and he was taking a lot of good care in the shop. He had a good section of things. It was set up well, with kind of some new ways to display both the graphic novels and the books. We had a good conversation when I was in there. It was all good, and I did a review of it, positively, and kind of said, "Hey, go check it out." And then I went back in, I don't know, like a month and a half later, and the guy's like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I saw that you put a review of my shop on your channel," and he's like, "I'll be honest, I was surprised you did," and I asked you, I took a bunch of pictures, and he goes, "Yeah, but," he goes, "I'm gay." And I don't know. You ever have those moments where somebody says something and you don't know how to answer, not because you're surprised or shocked, but because it doesn't fit the conversation. You go home to your wife, you're like, "Hey, you got a nice haircut." And she says, "I bought new knives today." What? And it didn't fit. So I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then and then what I wanted to say, which didn't come out, was there's a little pride triangle on your door. So I suspected either it was, queer owned, or that you were just you're trying to appeal to the audience. I don't know. I don't know. Assume. Generally speaking, I don't know if it's that way in other places. In Washington, when you have a queer owned business, they put a little rainbow triangle there on the door. That some people exclusively shop there, I guess. I don't know. All these behaviors are weird to me. Like, if I'm going in to get bread or milk, I don't care what triangle's on the door. I'm gonna here's the closest store to me. I'm buying some bread. I don't know. So I go, okay. And he's like, "Oh, a lot of your commenters really seem to get after people like me." And I go, "No, that's not." That's not really true. It's kind of that material put into the comics, not as just a character coming in, but like overdoing it, like a PSA that I think annoys people. It's kind of like in the 70s when you have a lot of cartoons like "Don't smoke, kids." The 2020 equivalent is it's okay to be gay, and for a lot of the readers, they're like, "Yeah, we know, we read Sandman back in the 90s. We passed this lesson already. We're kind of irritated to keep saying that." But anyway, we had a little bit of a conversation about it. But it's still, I like that moment kind of haunts me a little bit, because it's screwed up and wrong on a lot of different levels. And I I mean I don't know. I don't. This whole topic has gotten people so bent around that it's causing us to pre-assume intent. That is ridiculous. But anyway, I think I've said before. I did a video on this on my channel that by far, and I last time I did this, one of my former employees would call up and like, "Hey, what about me? I was good too." Yes, I had a lot of good people. Good people, many of which are friends, get the Christmas card every year, who worked in my shops. But my favorite, the hardest working great employee was a guy who was gay, who came out actually during his employment. I think I said in a previous video that it was one of those where he came out to all of us roughly, I don't know, he had started working for about, I don't even remember what it was, like 6 months. And, he came out about 6 months late from all of us. No, knowing, I said that in the other video. He's like, I just want to let you know I'm gay. I'm like, "Yeah, we figured it out when you liked men. We nothing wrong with that. You're an awesome employee." and he was. But one of the things that he did, you know where some of this is going, is I said I love going into comic shops. I love seeing how different people do their stores. I love seeing the different ways that people sell the comics. One of the truths that if you're a retailer is that you don't get to pick, which comics, you're sent all these comics. You're not going to like all of them. It's impossible to like all of them. It's impossible to even like half, probably. And but you still have to sell them. So people have said, to me before, God, that's going to be really, really hard. It's like, no, actually, it's super easy, barely an inconvenience. It's you just have to, try and match up the people coming in the shop with what they will enjoy. So you have to practice, you have to listen. And then once you've listened, you got to match, because lots of people come in, lots of different things that they want. And you just need to kind of put two and two together. It's actually not that hard. And whether you like the comic or not is the least relevant part. But one of the things that this employee that I thought was so amazing, that he always was really good at, is when he was in there with other people, kind of working the shop, he was, I would say, rabid, maniacal, just hardcore about one thing, which is never, ever, ever, tell the customer they're wrong, or tell the customer you don't want this. So one of the cliches about comics is that the comic shop owner will like pull comics out of your hand. And this has happened for sure. And I've been in shops where I've watched the person working behind the register do things like, you don't really want that. Or that's corporate crap. What are you doing buying Spider-Man? You grow up and evolve to indie comics. That kind of attitude is absolutely my least favorite aspect of comic shops, retailers. People who adopt that personality, it's terrible. I hate it. It's putting themselves over their customers. It's wrong. It's just it's gross behavior. And this employee would just, when somebody would come in, he's like, nope, we don't tell them. We do not tell them what to buy. We do not tell. Now, if the customer comes up and says, hey, what are you liking right now? Sure, it's open season to give your opinions, but this is always the rule, only positive. Meaning, if somebody comes in and says, I'm looking for a comic, what do you think is the best? You have to answer the question as it was asked. And the question was, what do you think is the best? Not tell me everything that's shitty. And so, then you certainly give your opinion, like, well, I like this. But a smart retailer will go, I like this comic because it really has some good sci-fi elements. I like this comic because it's got some good horror elements. I like this comic because it's, if you really like a long kind of burn payoff to a story, the smart retailer is doing that because they're fishing. They're trying to determine what the customer is interested in. And by the way, when you're, whether you're doing a crowdfunded book, whether you're doing stuff on your own, these are very simple things. Basically, learn your audience. Completely crazy novel idea. Figure out what your audience really is into, and then try and meet that need. Pretty simple. But it is, I get questions from time to time, like, or not questions really. I mean, what sparked this is I got an email. The person didn't want me to read it, which is fine. But basically said, I went into a store and to buy some comics, and the shop owner told me that the comics I was buying were shitty, and that they're awful comics, and that it left a bad taste in his mouth. Doesn't know if he'll go back to the shop again. And my answer is don't shop at places where the person's going to tell you what to do and make you feel bad about a purchase. So that's absurd. So anyway, that to me is one of the most annoying comic shop behaviors. I'm curious if you encountered anything like your shop. How do they treat you? Because I'm curious, and we're going through this transition right now where a lot of shops are starting to pull way back on new comics, and sometimes pull completely out. There are shops that the new comics are purely, box orders. And quite frankly, if you're a comic shop right now, that's probably a good move. Go for just getting out of the business of trying to guess and predict. Like, well, put it this way. If I was starting out a brand new shop, hope to do soon, knock on wood. If I was starting scratch, wasn't still right now, I'm still fulfilling orders for a bunch of long-term customers who still orders from me because they just value the relationship. These people have been ordering like 25 years or more, but and now I'm happy to do that. But if I was starting a brand new shop with brand new clientele, I probably would not order new comics for the shelf for at least 6 months. I would go purely on, I would assess the people coming in. What are they ordering in the box? What's the mood of kind of that area? What do people buy? Because there are massive differences around the country based on what somebody in Texas versus Seattle versus New York versus Florida. There's a different feed. And unfortunately, the margin business in comics is so tight that you can't afford to miss by 20%. I mean, you'd blow whatever profit you're making if you start missing by those numbers. But anyway, what kind of personalities do you encounter? What is your shop like? Are they friendly? Do they try and help you out? Do they just sit behind the counter and say nothing in silence? A lot of people prefer that, by the way. Just the shop owner who just shuts up and doesn't say anything. And you could kind of start to recognize those people. They'd come in the shop, they'd like look for the register, and then they turn in the opposite direction, just walk as far away as possible, acclimate, and then start getting comics. It was tough. It's tough to get to those people, but again, the best thing to do is leave them to their own devices until they engage with you. Just start to learn what people are like. But what do you deal with? I'm curious to know. So let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course, and thanks for listening.